Hello and welcome to Cardboard History. I'm David, and today I want to share a video that is a long time coming. So I have been wanting to do this video for about 9 months and just waiting until I have the time to be able to do it. It's been a crazy busy season of life with moving and a new baby and finishing my PhD. So this is one of those things that really got pushed to the back. But now that we're into the summer, I've had a little bit of time to sit down and think through what I wanted to do and create this video. The video is part of my Ken Burns collection. If you've followed my channel at all, one of the big projects I've been working on for several years is trying to collect a card of every player that's mentioned in the Ken Burns documentary. I went through and made a list, figured out who had cards, and then set out to try to put that together. It's about 465 cards total in that set, and I'm a little over halfway through. When I put together that set, there was one card that jumped out at me as this is the one card that I hope I have the opportunity to buy. And it's one that doesn't come up for sale very often because it's been several years looking and waiting for this card until I finally found one. The card is of a player named Billy Sunday, who played in the late 1800s, but he is more known for his role as an American evangelist, traveling around and preaching the Bible and offering the hope of salvation to those that were listening. The reason why this card was so exciting for me is because it lies at the intersection of two of my favorite interests, of baseball on one hand and baseball history, and then on the other hand, of the history of faith in America and the people that God has used throughout time to draw people to himself and to proclaim the good news and the hope of salvation through the blood of Christ. So Billy Sunday is that guy. There have been a lot of people who have used the platform of sports and athletics to go on and to have ministries that preach the gospel, but Billy Sunday was really the first one to do that. And his history has been something that I have known since I was in elementary school. I remember reading stories about him, and he's one of the first baseball players I knew before, Ty Cobb and Honus Wagner. It was Billy Sunday. So when I heard about him in the Ken Burns documentary, it kind of brought back those memories. And then when I was doing research, finding that he had baseball cards was incredible. And I was so excited to try and pick one up. And I finally did. I'll share the card here in a little bit. But before I share the card, one thing I've done with the Ken Burns series is I've tried to, every once in a while, make a video that highlights a certain player in there and tells more of their story. Somebody that maybe people don't know as much about. And I wanted to do that with Billy Sunday, but I wanted to do more than just share a story or share a little bit of his biography. I wanted to make it feel as if you paused the Ken Burns documentary and you took a magnifying glass and you kind of dove in and still got to see, kind of through the way that Ken Burns presents things, the story of the life of Billy Sunday and who he was. So that's what I have here after I'm done talking. But before that, I want to share the card and then get to that video. So let me turn around the camera, and here we go. This is the N284 Buckner gold coin, 1887. This is Billy Sunday when he was with the Chicago White Stockings, which is not the White Sox, it's the precursor to the Cubs before they became known as the Chicago Cubs. So also a huge Cubs fan, so the fact that Billy Sunday played for the Cubs is awesome. So this card, obviously in very rough condition, but I don't care, I love it. It's been skimmed out of an album. There should be some writing on the back here if you see any of the other cards from the set. But there's just really not many examples of these out there. I believe the pop report between SGC and PSA is less than 10. So super excited to get this and to add it to my collection. Beyond this card, Billy Sunday does have a few other cards. He has a Yum Yum Tobacco, of which I believe only 2 are known to exist, and also an old Judge card. What I like specifically about this one is the pose that he's in. Buckner Gold Coins uses the same pose for all the position players. So all center fielders have a pose similar to this, but then the artwork is changed to match the way that these individuals looked. And what's to me so cool about this image is that his eyes are looking upwards, preparing to catch a pop fly, but really, to me, it kind of demonstrates more of the posture of his life, that after he had a experience of salvation, he really spent the rest of his life with his eyes fixed upwards on a higher calling. So there's the card, and now we'll get to the video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy this and learn a little bit about the life of Billy Sunday. In the winter of 1914, Billy Sunday stood before a crowd in a wooden tabernacle built just for him. Outside, the air was cold. Inside, benches were full. Men and women sat shoulder to shoulder, waiting. Sunday did not begin quietly. He ran. He moved across the platform with the energy of a man half his age. At one point, he dropped low and slid across the floor as if stealing a base. The crowd reacted instinctively. Some leaned forward. Some laughed. Some grew still. It was not a baseball game, but baseball was there. It always was. Billy Sunday was born William Ashley Sunday in 1862 in Ames, Iowa, as the Civil War reshaped the nation. His father enlisted in the Union Army and died of disease soon after. Sunday would grow up without him. Poverty followed, and so did work. As a boy, Sunday spent time in an Iowa orphanage. He labored on farms. Later, he worked for the railroad. His education was brief, and his discipline was physical. He learned to endure, and he learned to run. Sunday was fast, uncommonly fast. On informal diamonds and town teams, speed became his calling card. In an era when baseball was still finding its shape, raw athleticism could open doors, and for Billy Sunday, it did. In 1883, Sunday reached the major leagues with the Chicago White Stockings. He was an outfielder, a defensive player, a base runner, not a great hitter, but a reliable one. His value came from speed and effort. He played under Cap Anson, one of the defining figures of early professional baseball. The game was rough then. Players drank, traveled constantly, lived close to temptation. Sunday's career spanned 8 seasons. The numbers were modest, but baseball gave him something else. It gave him visibility, a platform, a public role, and it immersed him in a world that would later trouble his conscience. In 1886, while still playing professionally in Chicago, Billy Sunday passed the Pacific Garden Mission. He stopped. Inside, hymns were being sung. The sound carried into the street. Sunday listened, then he entered. What happened that night would become the central moment of his life. Sunday said he felt convicted, changed, called. He continued playing baseball for a time, but his habits shifted. He stopped drinking. He spoke openly about faith. He spent time with missionaries and evangelists. In 1890, he left baseball altogether. To many, it seemed foolish. Baseball had given him escape from poverty, respect, and security. But Sunday believed the game had prepared him for something else. A different kind of performance. A different audience. Billy Sunday became an evangelist at a moment of national uncertainty. America was changing. Cities were growing. Immigration was reshaping neighborhoods. Industry was altering daily life. Many felt disoriented. Sunday offered clarity. He used the metaphors of work and sport. He ran, shouted, gestured. He made belief physical. Crowds came. Then, more crowds. By the early 20th century, Billy Sunday was one of the most famous Americans alive. His revival meetings filled massive wooden tabernacles. Newspapers followed him from city to city. It is estimated that he preached nearly 20,000 sermons, speaking to over 100 million people face to face throughout his ministry, mostly without any electronic amplification. Historian Lyle Dorsett estimates that 1,250,000 people responded to his invitations for salvation. He became a vocal supporter of prohibition and moral reform. To his critics, he was too simple, too loud, too certain. To his supporters, he was authentic, a man who had risen from hardship and spoke plainly. Baseball remained central to his image. It shaped his metaphors, his movements, his public identity. Even after his death in 1935, obituaries described him first as a former ball player. He was remembered not for home runs or records, but for what baseball made possible. Billy Sunday lived between worlds, between rural America and the modern city, between 19th century baseball and 20th century spectacle, between the outfield and the pulpit. He ran hard in both places. Today, his sermons are rarely read, his tabernacles are gone, his voice survives mostly in photographs and newsprints. But his story and his legacy remains. Because baseball has always been more than a game. It has been a training ground for public life. For Billy Sunday, it paved the way for him to reach millions with the hope of salvation in Christ. Billy Sunday once ran the bases. Later, he ran the stage. In both, his eyes were fixed as he was running